They just want you to sit in your chair and go, hip hip hooray for the Western press and the Western narrative. Regurgitating the same old, same old, same old every single day without exception. Please watch the first 2 episodes, the second series. Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Good evening, everyone. It's the history of literature tonight. With my good friend, artist, international artist, that is as well, Mr. Anthony Brown. We'll be talking a lot tonight about certain things, and obviously we'll be talking about when we go off on a tangent with some of your comments, which is great, because it helps the show. It really does, It's no matter what books you read, it helps the show. If you never read any classics or whatever, and you even read stories in magazines, which are mostly love stories. I don't mind them. Don't mind them at all. And we've got some things anyway to talk about. But before I talk about, I've got to thank these wonderful people who sponsor every single podcast. Yes, I'm a bit tired tonight. But anyway, every single podcast that I do, and it's Gap Painting Services. Gap Painting Services. If you're going to get some decorating done over the Christmas or for Christmas, please get them in right away. Phone them up. If you're an NHS worker, you get a special discount. If you're an elderly, bang, get them in. You get a special discount. Even if you don't fit into those categories, as I keep saying, time and time again, just ring them up. Let them give you the price without any obligation. Just get them in. See what you want doing. That's Gap Painting Services. The sponsors of the Carlyle podcasts, every single one of them. And I've got a podcast tomorrow night, football, because Liverpool are playing on Saturday, so I have to do a podcast. Football, I thought it was next week that I think it was. I always thought that it was full of internationals this week, but it's not. So we're back to normal on Saturday. Yes. So I'll be having a podcast tomorrow night about Liverpool. So that's to all you football fans. And the lovely Odette. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable, this is a fantastic quote. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And that's GBS, George Bernard Shaw. And we were talking, Anthony and I, about, when you buy a book or whatever, and it's an adapted one, it leaves out crucial parts of the story. And people don't realise that. People don't. And so the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. That's smashing. And the unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt to the world himself. Excellent stuff. Great quote by the great man himself. And the deck carries on. Bonsoir, Monsieur Frank, Monsieur Anthony and chat. I was shocked reading that Shaw criticised Shakespeare for his lack of rigorous thinking and for being an immortal pilferer of stories and ideas. It's harsh. He did, there's one, Hamlet. He more or less plagiarised Hamlet. There is something wrong in the state of Denmark. Yes. But he has why he did that, he was having a go at England. All his outside work, the likes of Macbeth, Hamlet, Othello, the Merchant of Venice, they were all having a go at the English. He was having a go at the English. Where it's saying that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark, what he was actually saying is, or was, there is something rotten in the state of England, which it was at the time. So, I think George Bernard as well, Irish, being Irish, he had something against it. I love Bernard Shaw, by the way. And that's one of the great quotes that he gave about adapting to your thinking. So, he did have a little go at the English himself, as all Irish do. And the deck carries on. Shaw did acknowledge Shakespeare's genius in other areas, such as his poetic language and ability to write tragedies like King Lear. Shaw's opinions are somewhat contradictory towards the bard. There's no one like the bard. Nobody. So I agree with you there. Amby says, hiya Frank, hiya Ellen, hiya the death. And Snapey, literature covers such a wide spectrum that rigid adherence to one specific topic stagnates the subject matter. For me, the great orators are derived through scholastic tenacity. And that's my 2 pence. That's great, that, though, by the way. That's great, that. There's a lot of rigidity, to be honest, in literature, but I'm not talking about from the likes of Shakespeare onwards. I'm not talking about Dickens. Dickens had to be careful what he wrote at the time. And so did, as I said, I mentioned Shakespeare. And we'll be talking about him a little bit later on, and some of our great Always Asmere, WUNC, Beast. I don't know what the abbreviation is, I'm afraid. OACE. I just don't know what the abbreviation is. Maybe you can enlighten me. And Snapey says, I thought Hamlet was good. Personally, though, I'm a Costello. Irish, yes. He was based. He's a goat, actually. There's loads of goats. Loads of goats. Always as me. I hope I've spelt your name, pronounced your name right. And and good evening, Frank and Legends. Hope everyone is well and warm. I'm freezing. I've had the fire on all day. It's going to cost me an arm and a leg. Yes, an arm and a leg. And GGMU. George Galloway, Manchester United is that. Good evening, Frank, and guests, and all chat, says lovely little Lynn Ellis. Hiya, Lynn. Bonsoir, ambidextrous, says the lovely Edith. Bella. Buonasera, Franco and Antonio, and you lovely family. Hope you're all well. Yes. And that's actually typed out by Marcella, Bella's daughter, because she interprets for her. She speaks Italian. She only speaks Italian to her daughter, and she types it out, which is fantastic. And Snapey, hiya, Johan, lad. Hope you're well, fella. That's nice. And Adette. Monsieur Frank, before Christmas, will you do a show on Christmas Carol? Merci. We're doing one, yeah, of course we are. We have to. We'll be talking about it tonight. But yes, we will. And I've just got to show you this. Got to show you this, fella. And then I'm taking them off because I'm bringing my guest on. I'm bringing this fella on here. Hey, lovely.
Good evening, my dear friend. Good evening, Frank. And good evening, one and all of you. And Odette, yes, that would be wonderful to do a little special on the merits of Christmas Carol. Yeah, definitely. Maybe.
Go on. I'm sorry. Go on, Anthony. I was just
going to say maybe there'll be a little reading from Monsieur Frank.
Yeah. You know, you've got to understand as well, Anthony, that we spoke about A Christmas Carol.
Yeah. And
people read the story. People read the story, and it's a free-flowing story. Free-flowing. And then what do they tend to forget as they're reading it, Anthony?
They tend to overlook the fact that this is real life. The poverty aspect, the struggle that people have. You know, it's not about one man. The book is not about one man. It's about a multitude of social issues that are overlooked. Well, not overlooked, but they're not brought to full attention.
No, they're not brought to full attention simply because you've got to follow it. And this is the problem Dickens had. This is the problem he had. We can talk. We'll talk about A Christmas Carol in a couple of weeks, in depth.
Yeah.
In depth, because there's a hell of a lot to go into with A Christmas Carol, as you know.
Yeah, but not just Dickens, but as we know, not just then, but now. If you want to get your story, novel, poem out there, there's a whole realm of things you have to tick a box, make sure it's acceptable. And Dickens became master at that, which,
Yes. And sometimes people forget the names. What I mean, forget to look at the names.
yeah,
Take Gradgrind in our times, for example.
yeah,
Gradgrind. He was a headmaster,
yeah,
and he taught the kids, but he never taught them any imagination or wonderment. No wonderment with him, no imagination with him. It was all fact, fact, fact. And when you look at his name, Gradgrind, it's like it's all full of consonants. Grind. Grinds your face into the desk to learn facts.
yeah,
And his mate, who is the big factory owner, where all his workers, went in for the pittance and came out every single day. And his name was Mr. Bounderby. Bounder. He was a bounder, but he was a bee stinging his workers, his workforce. And these are the names. There's loads of names that you've got to look at with Dickens. Christmas Carol, Scrooge.
yeah.
Scrooge, meaning he will screw everything from you because he's a miser. So we can get our teeth into him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but Azette was sorry she asked. Did you do that?
No, it will be, well, at the end of it, it'll be goodwill to all men,
Yes.
all women.
Yes. Strange that, isn't it? Goodwill to all men. I'm not picking my nose, I'm just itchy, by the way. You
No,
see me, it's terrible.
I put the fire on because it's freezing. And
Yes.
they make do, yeah.
And Ambi says, good evening, Anthony.
Good evening, ambidextrous. Thank you so much. Hope you're well.
And Azette says, love the lights around the fire, Monsieur Anthony. How are you feeling? A lot better?
A lot better, thank you, Odette. A lot better, thank you. That was just, and thankfully it was just a nasty cold, but just took a long while to get rid of. Yeah.
And go on, I'm sorry.
The lights on the fire, it's a bit of a family tradition because the twins' birthday is not too far from Christmas. So we start to dress the house, make it look a bit festive. That's why we're early, but only there, only there.
Well, Toscana says, Buonasera, Franco, Anthony, and all. Hope you're all well. Yes.
Yes, I think we are, Frank. Is that right?
Yes, we certainly are. Doing this tonight, yes. And Johan, good evening, international artist Mr. Brown, and all those scotches for you to keep you warm by the fire.
Johan, thank you so much, Mr. Kindness. But Tony or Anthony would suffice, but we'll keep the scotches because we'll share them.
Exactly.
We might even auction one later.
And Snapey, anyone here fancy a little get together in town around Christmas time? Cyberspace is all well and good, but given the caliber of some of Frank's guests, isn't it incumbent of us to meet up? That was said in the summer, and I was a bit all right then. Snapey, as you know, I think it was. I think it was Anfield Road. And he said, "Do you think we can?" I said, "Yes, sure." I was a bit all right, and I was all willing and everything. Now I can't bloody move. I've had to turn down a birthday party this weekend, unfortunately, this Saturday, because I can't move. And that's the problem I have. And that fell flat on its ears. I was saying it for about 2 weeks. Has anyone got a date? Come out with a date. And no one came out with a date. Nobody. And that was the annoying thing. Never said anything. I just carried on, But I understand that. And it is, it's a great comment that, about the cyberspace is all well and good. But given the caliber of some of Frank's guests, isn't it incumbent of us to meet up sometime? That's a cracking comment, though. And that's it. Monsieur Frank, Monsieur Anthony, I have to admit it is a story that comes to mind before Christmas, but the core themes Dickens transmits are everyday issues so many face on a daily basis. Yes.
Yeah, totally agree, Odette.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, but there's not many people could package it up and bring it out. Wasn't talked about.
And there's our F. There she is, ephemeral. That's a funny name, that isn't it? Hello, how is everyone? Says ephemeral. But all right. Got a mate of yours here. F.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Johan says Johnny Depp to play Scrooge in a Christmas Carol remake releasing next year. Great casting.
Well, I loved Sleepy Hollow he did years ago, but that was kind of black humor. I'm a little bit of a purist with Dickens. I love it the way he wrote it, and however many years we're lucky enough to share Christmases, I don't think you can beat. For me, you can't beat Alistair Sim in his portrayal in that.
Well, it's just like you can't beat the wonderful Basil Rathbone.
Totally
you can't
agree.
beat him as Sherlock. Point is, what you're saying there, Johan, what you're saying there, it has to be an Englishman. It has to be, not an American. And I know that, we've got great actors here. Great actors. You could take the part of Scrooge. It doesn't have to be an American to sell to the Americans, if you like. Do you know who'd be great as Scrooge? Do you know who'd be great? Because he's at that age now. He's at that age, and he's one of the greatest of all actors that has been for many, many years. Anthony Hopkins. Could you imagine him?
Oh, a fine and proud Welshman. Yeah, he would be. He would be remarkable, isn't he? Yeah, he's got that stage presence.
He's got everything. He's got all the presence.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know, his delivery of words. And that's what I'm more interested in.
Who else comes to mind, if not Anthony Hopkins? Brian Cox.
Brian Cox, a Scotsman. So we picked a Welshman and a Scotsman. Where's the English? I tell you, it'd be brilliant English. And I love this man. Love him. Great actor. Great, great actor. And that's Bill Nye.
Yes. Yeah.
Imagine him. And he's at the same age. And he's like lean, isn't he, as well? He's lean. Could you imagine him looking at his book, you know? And then looking up.
Yeah.
You know what, the two gentlemen who's asking for money.
Yeah.
Isn't there any union workhouses? Oh yes. Oh, I thought that thing.
Yeah.
Yes, they're in full swing. Oh, I thought that they stopped. Brilliant.
Deplete the surplus population.
Yes.
He's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that. Johnny Depp. No. Sorry.
We're getting. I like Johnny Depp. I like his stuff.
So do I.
I think. I don't see there's any reason to portray English, the finest English literature, with non-English or UK people. The same way as, you know, we don't need an Englishman to play an American. There's many fine actors in different parts of the world that can do these roles. But I think that the need is to anchor the storyline around someone who's got that presence. And I totally agree on what you said about Anthony Hopkins and Bill Nye. Yeah.
And FC's, well, it's Paul. Yes, we're talking about it. We'll be talking about Mr. Poe.
Yeah.
And the great casting comment should have had sarcasm warning after that. Personally, I would have liked Daniel Day-Lewis. Now we've got an Irishman.
Yeah.
An Irishman, a Welshman, and a Scotsman.
That's what we need. Yeah, that's what we need, because it's a depth of passion, you know. And you said something today which I immediately nearly took offense at.
Oh.
You said, me, I'm a fairly good historian. And I said, no, you are an excellent historian. And partly it's knowing facts, figures, dates, times, but the biggest part of it is your presence and how your passion.
Thank you.
Books everything up. And it's the same as actors. You know, we get somebody who's technically right, you know, he's the same age and he's this and whatever. He's got a good accent, but no passion. Why are we watching him? No, it's that.
Yeah, it's see, to cast somebody in a film, it has to be so right. Do you know
Yeah,
when James Bond was first coming out?
yeah.
Right, did you know who the Americans wanted to cast? You're not going to
Not
believe.
Ronald Reagan.
And Ian Fleming was still alive, and he said, "No way! I'll just scrap everything. He has to be a Brit." That's what he said.
Yeah.
He has to be a Brit. They wanted Steve McQueen as James Bond. No, I'm sorry. They have mid-Atlantic accents, no
Yeah.
matter who acts the part. You know,
Well, one thing that would have been great, and there's been talk about it from the the person himself who was a cousin of Ian Fleming, is the great, and he's forever known now for his Lord of the Rings things, is Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee was um, Ian Fleming's cousin,
Well, there
and
you go. And he could have played a magnificent Bond.
he could
With
have.
his tall, black hair. Do you
Yeah.
know that his ancestry goes back to the Borgias? Christopher Lee.
Wow.
He got lost once in Italy. Him and his wife never got lost. They were out in the countryside somewhere, I don't know where. And anyway, the car broke down. What are we going to do? And he was with his wife. I said, "Oh, I don't." And he's seen a light on. He's seen a light, across a field.
Yeah.
So we walk through this. Brilliant story. He walks, him and his wife says, "You're not leaving me here." So he said, "No." He said, "Come on. So anyway, they traipse across this field. They get to the door. This is genuine. This is brilliant. And the door opens. And this is an Italian, a middle-aged Italian or an older man. I don't know, I forget now. And he opens the door. Do you know what was the first words he said? Honest. He went, "It's Dracula." And he turned to his wife. He said, "It's Dracula at the door."
Get a crucifix.
In the middle of Italy. It's Dracula. So you see the presence he had on the screen. You've got to have a presence on the screen.
Yes.
And as Johan says, Daniel Day-Lewis, 3 Oscars. You can't beat him. So we've got everyone now.
Yeah.
But I totally disagree with Snapey here. Brian Blessed with his booming voice as Scrooge, although insofar as a presents go to Scrooge will keep them up. No, I couldn't have it. I couldn't stand advertisements with him in. "Don't get a flat shut the fuck off." I couldn't. Just couldn't stand them.
You know what? I think Brian Blessed is absolutely sensational as Brian Blessed.
As Brian Blessed, yes.
The problem would be to try and adapt that, and it's true of people who act in soaps. And no disrespect to anyone, because we know a lot of wonderful people who do act in soaps, but there are those actors who say, "No, I'm not going to do it because you're forever going to be known as Doris from the corner shop, or Gilbert, the shit shoveler that works at the stable." And I get that because Drew had said that to me years ago when people were saying, "Oh, you should be in this and should be in that." No, that's not.
Exactly. Exactly.
You put in a box, aren't you?
Yeah,
And
of
that's a
course.
you put yourself in a box. So yeah,
Well, Bella says Al Pacino, if he was English, or Robert Lindsay. Um, Pacino, I seen him playing, and he was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. He was brilliant as Shylock in A
oh
Merchant of Venice.
wow,
And you know that he's got a great English accent?
I
That's
love
Pacino.
it. Yeah, I love his mentality on life. I love his work, but I think Robert Lindsay is a bit short of the mark for what you're saying. And again, maybe it's the repetition for no. I don't think he's got that presence.
Well, it's like what Toscana says there, you know, thank God they chose Sean Connery. The rest is history. But I don't think any other actor could match Connery as 007. Well, every one of them had to be, you know, a Brit because if they would have got away with it, if Ian Fleming would have said, yeah, okay, we would have had a load of Americans playing Bond.
Yeah, which is
That would
wrong.
have
I
been,
mean, on a different level, but the great sadness was when A.A. Milne, Winnie the
oh,
Pooh, was sold to Disney, and then all of a sudden, what was once comfortable English, no, became American dialect.
okay. I've just got a message there. That's all. Yes. Can I read out a great quote by Franz Kafka?
Yes, please.
An idiot is an idiot. Two idiots are two idiots. 10,000 idiots are a political party.
Yeah,
How brilliant is that?
yeah, 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 yeah. And true today as was whenever he wrote it.
Incredible, isn't it? Snapey says, given the insatiable pursuit of political correctness synonymous with the septic tanks, if they were to cast a new James Bond, they probably plump for a RuPaul so that not to offend anyone.
That's a problem. So what what you or I would do, Snape, probably, and Frank is at a point you created it. It's like time to pull the plug on it. Um,
Yes,
stop it.
yes.
The
Funny
books.
enough, sorry, was
No,
you going?
I say the books are still there for anyone who wants to delve into how it was. The films are still there.
I always remember when Pierce Brosnan was chosen, and someone said, "He's a Yank." I thought there was no Yanks allowed to. He's not an American. He's Irish.
Irish. Yeah,
He's an Irish actor. I thought he was all right as Bond, by the way.
I thought it was great. He did 4 films. Yeah, I thought it was great. He had that kind of wry sense of humour.
He did. He
Like,
did. And his voice, he has a great accent.
yeah. He went through horrific times in school in England. He came to live in London. No one referred to him as his name. Even the teachers would call him Irish. Hey, Irish. And this is this our lifetime, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Little Ellen ambidextrous says, I know he's dead now. I wonder if she means this fella. Wilfred Owen would fit the mould for Scrooge.
You might have done for James Bond.
Do you know, I've got something stuck in my teeth.
Yeah.
Sorry about this.
Well, you finally had something.
You're not going to believe what I had, and it's really stuck, like. I had,
Golden crispy onions.
I made myself some spaghetti. I had to. But what I've got stuck in my mouth, I had a piece of pineapple, and little kernels are in pineapples, and it's got stuck in my tooth.
Seeds, yeah. Yeah.
I'll have to try and get it out.
Yeah.
I'll have to try and get it out. It's really annoying me. And Snapey says, brilliant shout, Amby. And she says, thanks. A debt to Tosca. Sorry, there is only one complete Mr. Bond, Daniel Craig. Bond was involved particularly in Skyfall, which I rate as Craig's best film as Bond. I've never watched it. I don't like Daniel Craig.
I watched them. We watched them as a family as well because the kids loved him. But I watched it. He was in a great series on television about 20 odd years ago. Our Friends in the North.
Yeah.
Great cast. Wonderful. That was the first time I ever saw him.
And I interviewed his granddad.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig's granddad.
Yeah.
And he was incredible.
Yeah.
Yes, what a story he had. And but I'm going back before Daniel Craig was somebody. And he became, I'll just say this briefly. When war broke out, he joined the army right, as an officer. Anyway, he got captured. Well, he never got captured. He was forced into Dunkirk. So when he got back, he said, oh, son. So he joined the Navy and he got torpedoed. And he got back to England. He said, oh, son. See, they could resign the commissions. So he resigned his commission. So he joined the RAF. And he got shot down over the Air Channel. He got shot down over the channel. And what has happened was when he got shot down, he resigned his commission and he joined the intelligence. And who became a friend of his was none other than who?
Ian Fleming.
Ian Fleming. Now, imagine when Daniel, his grandson Daniel Craig became Bond. I wonder what he would have thought. His grandson playing Bond.
I think he'd be immensely proud, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to go and try and get this out. It's really annoying. So that was good, that, That's it. If you liked, I like Bonds. I like the Bond films, but I've never watched any of it. And he's a big Liverpool supporter.
Yes, because he was born up. He lived up the road in Heswell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's a fine actor, but again, the problem is if acting is your career, then you've now got to top that. Again, it's like coming out of a soap opera, being queen of whatever or king of whatever, and then what are you going to do that people kind of react favorably to you?
But what do you think of this comment? This is a cracking comment by Snapey. Without sounding like an inverted snob, the Americans have bastardized the English language to a comedic level. Believe me, I spent some time in the States, and their comprehension is at best primitive. I was going to mention before when we were talking about Mid-Atlantic, these actors, and I've never seen the funniest thing I've seen. And I just went, oh no, I'm not watching this. Was Robin Hood with Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
And then we had Morgan Freeman as a Moore. Again, if you're going to historic things, there was no Moors and there was no Mid-Atlantic accents either. And I just got that, just left it at that. I never watched it all. Alan Rickman. He didn't like Alan Rickman, because Alan Rickman was a stage actor.
Yeah.
Who boomed his lines.
Yeah. Yeah. And has a presence. Yeah.
Just didn't like him.
One of England's finest actors.
And when he said, I'm cancelling Christmas, Alan Rickman, and Costner said, don't have that line, and that's a great line. Don't have that line, and it's not, he's made that up. He's improvised that. So he says, yeah, all right, Kev. And they left it in. I'm cancelling Christmas.
Yeah, it's hard not to agree with Snapey there on every level.
Well, Johan says the Zionists tried to recruit Kafka to legitimize the cause for Israel in the Middle East. He denounced them, although he was Jewish himself. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of Jews did.
Yeah.
Denounced Zionism. I should have written Steptoe, says Amby. And that says Ian Fleming did not approve of Sean Connery casting. He called him a roughneck and not elegant enough for the role. That should have been. Yeah. But anyway, he was casted. Great success. Then the suavest of the lot of them was Roger the Lodger. Roger Moore.
Roger Moore? I kind of liked him as well.
Yeah,
But I think part of it was that um, movies were getting the special effects were looking remarkably real at that time, 73, 74, whatever. Um, and everything was science technically was coming together.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I kind of, well, that was, when I was younger, it was not so much, it was Roger Moore that got the focus. And for me,
Exactly.
when McCartney wrote the theme music, 73.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Is that a Live and Let Die?
Yeah,
Oh, unbelievable.
yeah,
I seen him at Anfield when he
amazing.
appeared at Anfield, and that's when it started. Live and Let Die, and the
Yeah.
fireworks.
Just the explosions and everything. Wow.
Wow, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, Voltaire, he said, men will always be mad. Those who think they can cure them all are the maddest of them all. That's, you know, men will always be mad, and those who think they can cure them are the maddest of all. Because that's us, isn't it? We think that we can put the world to right,
yeah,
but we're not. We're making it worse.
yeah. We're sheep in a pen, and we wouldn't know where to go if it wasn't for the pens. That's a big problem about in history, and certainly now. It's like we don't need the royals. Like abolish the monarchy. Let's abolish political parties. We can't tie our own laces as a human race.
No.
No, there's pockets of us that would survive very, very well, um, and then there's others who are clueless.
Yeah, yeah, they are clueless, unfortunately. They are, and I don't know. And Toscana said, "That's it. I went to the cinema to watch one of Craig's Bond's movies, but I fell asleep. Sorry,
You wouldn't have fallen asleep in Live and Let Die because that would have woke you up.
definitely,
Boom.
definitely." And as that says to Tosca, we agree to disagree. Craig was perfect in the role in Skyfall. We had Dame Judy, Rob Fiennes, Javier Bardem, Alba Finn. I thought Craig was able to expose. Well, that's what he was supposed to do. That's what he was supposed to do. Expose the dark side of him. Roger Moore was great,
Yeah,
says Bella. And
yeah,
I think Fleming sums up '07 very well with his quote: Bond is not a hero, he's a blunt instrument in the hands of the government. He's got vices and a few perceptible virtues. Um, well, he was a master spy.
yeah,
He had, that's what I mean, license to kill.
yeah,
Anyone who stood, he just killed them. If you look at the real Bond, Bond was a man who went about his business killing people. That's what spies do. They kill people if they stand in the way. No
yeah,
questions asked. Bang.
yeah, yeah.
As the quintessential English gentleman, Roger Moore took James Bond into a different stratosphere. My personal favourite is Moonraker, the only Bond film where Bond never had a car. Yeah, how about that?
That's great. But again, the strange one really, and you've brought this up a couple of times. We both, I I got the chance and the pleasure when I was younger, when I took a real interest in reading the Bond books, because my dad was an avid collector of Bond. Um, and so I read them. And then for me as a young kid to see the visualization of the books was brilliant. But I'm glad I read them.
God, blimey. Falls a fucking bits here. Anyway, yeah, very true. Jeff Fleming wanted David Niven, but the producers chose Connery due to his masculinity.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I offended anyone, says Johan. I used to love Bond myself, but seeing how the three-letter agencies manufactured consent, Bond was their poster boy for undemocratic atrocities being normalised.
I think that's the way he was written. And
Yeah, of course.
Johan, you could not offend any of us. God bless you. You. But I think you bang on there. That
Of
was the
course.
way Bond was written, and as Frank has just said, he was a killing machine. That was his
Yeah.
job. That's what he was very, very good at.
License to kill.
Yeah. Remove this problem, make that problem go away.
And the snapey shit. Why are we talking about Bonds? Get away from Bond now. We want to talk about different people. We want to talk about. We're talking about bloody films. That's for the Saturday morning. Well, I've got to finish off by saying this. Humanity is intrinsically self-destructive. Our major Achilles heel is as much as we scrutinise history, we never learn from it, just like the planet on which we live. It's yeah.
I yeah, I
Well,
totally.
it's all goes around in circles, doesn't it?
It does, and there are those that do learn from it, but you're powerless to stop it happening again.
I'm getting away from Bond now. I've got to get away. This isn't about James Bond. It's about
Although it's an interesting point, because we know that Arthur Conan Doyle went through a similar thing. When you create a character through literature and it becomes larger than life, you know.
Bella says, Franco and Antonio. Given that my husband keeps saying Christmas is cancelled, he might be perfect to play Scrooge.
Yeah, Bella, just call him Ebenezer. Ebenezer, put the kettle on. It's or what's the word in it? Humbug, bar humbug.
Oh, and Christmas. Hi, Frank and Anthony and everyone. Like and subscribe for James Bond.
James Bond has left the building, but he's left a whole group of people in his place.
And the jet says, Toscana, for me, Connolly in A Bridge Too Far or Hunt for Red October. Bolshoi. He was great actor, Connolly.
I love The Man Who Would Be King.
The Man Who Would Be King, yes. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was yes, it was Christopher. John le Carré.
Yeah. Yeah.
John le Carré.
That's been ransacked for years, hasn't it, with different
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The first fella I see him playing, Smiley, George Smiley, was Alec Guinness.
Brilliant. The best.
Best.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was in the mid 70s, was it, Frank? Late 70s?
Yeah, I think it was early, mid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know who I played on stage in a
Who?
panto? I played Ricky Tomlinson as Jim Royal.
Yeah. Me ass.
I was up in where was it? Ormskirk. These surgeons wrote to play, and you know when I started speaking, you know, I say you've got a wonderful accent. He thought that I was putting it on. I said, no, it's me. That's the way you speak. Um, really? He thought I was some actor. Oh, God. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, him.
Yeah. Yeah. Edgar Allan, which was almost an adoptive name, although he was never formally adopted by Mr. Allan, who was a bit of a one. Edgar Allan Poe, whose beautiful mother was an actress from England, and his father was American born, although his father's father was Scottish born. And Edgar Allan Poe was just under 2 when his mum died, and he was put up for kind of an unofficial adoption, which was one of the biggest traumas of his life, which was full of traumas. But I have to say, we like these people because they have an adversity to trauma and to blight. One of Edgar Allan Poe's early heroes in the British Romantics was one of our favourite poets, which is John Keats. And also, as he developed as a writer, because he was a soldier, he was a multitude of things in real life, and life kept giving him a bad hand of cards, but that's life, that's what happens to people. But he found his way into writing and became an editor and a critic. And one of his greatest writers that he promoted tirelessly, he would tell people, buy these books, read this gentleman. This gentleman is amazing, was none other than Charles Dickens. And they met in 1842 after communicating, and Dickens came over, and I think his book at the time in America was Barnaby Rudge. It's a series of books, and Edgar Allan Poe had every magazine he worked for as an editor and copywriter would proclaim how great these works are. So they met and they got on very well. And there was a curious thing that they talked about, who had passed the year previously, which was the great Charles Dickens's pet raven called Grip. Charles Dickens loved this raven, much to the absolute horror of the children, his children, because he would read them bedtime stories, and he'd have the raven on his shoulder, and the kids would be petrified, and then the raven would jump down and start to eat the wallpaper or the furnishings or whatever. So, but in that conversation, that planted a seed with Mr. Poe.
Okay.
A couple
And
of
what,
years
what, and we've got a Liverpool connection, haven't we?
we have this is the genius of a chap called James William Carling. Now he was of Irish descent, living in Liverpool at a time where poverty was through the roof, absolutely unbelievable. But he had a gift which he discovered as a young child. His elder brother Henry was similar, but James used to go on the streets and draw as this is happening, and he used to take his chalks down towards the docks, which Frank and I have talked about many times. It was a hard, unforgiving place. But he drew his pictures, and the sailors would get off boats or going on boats, and he would throw a couple of coins in the hat. And then that prompted the police to arrest him because that was regarded as begging. Even though, in all honesty, he was given a service. No one could pick up the painting and walk away. He wasn't selling flagstones. He was just showing a talent, and it wasn't allowed. So the police would put him in jail. I don't know
Yeah,
how.
they arrested him, didn't they, for begging?
Yeah,
He said he was begging. Now, don't forget about the wonderful Blake when he wrote London. I wander through its chartered street near where the chartered Thames does flow. And every face of man I meet, marks of weakness, marks of woe. Point is, the chartered street, a vagrancy law came out that no poor could walk anywhere near where the rich lived.
yeah,
And you were thrown straight in jail.
yeah,
And this was the same. This was the same for begging.
yeah,
If you were found begging, so anybody, the likes of James Carling, this young lad, this kid, he was a kid.
yeah. Was a kid, yeah, on the streets of Liverpool. So
Yeah.
this is Liverpool, not London, but
No. So
across the country.
it was a lot everywhere,
Yeah,
up
On
and down the country.
like Bold Street, which we take for granted now. But before we were born, you were not allowed to walk onto Bold Street, were you?
No, you weren't, because it was exclusive. And where James Carling was born is around the corner from where I live now. He lived in a place called Cow's Lane.
Yeah.
Because Cow's Lane was where the people, it's had the name for, hundreds or so years. And they used to march the cows, around there because it was still grazing land. And Cow's Lane, that's where he lived. And we had a great friend of ours who wrote about Mr. Carling, didn't we? Who's no longer with us now.
God bless you, Michael.
Yeah.
That is a book he wrote about the Carling brothers.
Yes.
Which is wonderfully informative. I mean, we that's the beauty of tonight and the history show and everything. We are never too old. It's never too late to learn something new. History will keep teaching us. But to go back to James William, his brother Henry had emigrated to America previously, and Henry had said, listen, you want to get yourself over here, better quality of life, more chance that people will appreciate your art. And there was an option to submit work to a magazine, which I think was Harper's Magazine.
Yeah.
And it was, the prize would be that your illustrations would appear in the new version of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. So James William Carling immediately produced a series of drawings which even now are absolutely mind-blowing. Very William Blake to me, isn't it? Is that imagination. So none of this. James William Carling lived in a back street in Liverpool. He couldn't afford models to stand and pose, and, whole lot. All of this was from
Imagination.
which is the most powerful thing we have.
There you go. You've got it there.
Yeah. So he did this series, and everyone said, "Wow, just wow!" At the time, the mid 1800s, Poe had died. Look at that, and you can just totally get the sensation of isolation in that. Wonderful, just beautiful, beautiful. These drawings should be taught in every art school, every school.
Well, that's mental health, isn't it? The way you see him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how we suffer.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. And that's the hardest thing in the world. To put that, how we suffer, into words, but to visualize it. Now, unfortunately, after his series of drawings were presented, and there we go, they just look total.
Look at the demons. Look at the demons.
Absolutely, and it totally fit in with Poe. No, because Poe was, like it or not, was put into this thing of tales of the macabre and horror. He was a writer, and he was writing all sorts of fine, like Dickens and all of them, like Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote some horrific pieces, but what James William did is to capture that.
But can I bring in Johan here? Look at this. We were discussing this, weren't we? Rufus Griswold had a major hand in defaming Poe after his death. Poe criticised Griswold's collection of poetry when he worked as a critic. Drunkard, womanizer, mentally ill, all came from Griswold.
Yeah, he did. Just a name, and like Frank said before about Dickensian characters, Rufus Wilmot Griswold. That to me sounds like a wannabe snide who you wouldn't buy a used car from. But anyway, yeah, he absolutely did that. He was Poe's nemesis. He was also vying for the jobs that Poe went for. And we know the evilness of jealousy, certainly professional jealousy. And he used every power he had to badmouth Poe. And it took about 25, 30 years for his writings to be absolutely thrown away. There's James William.
And he attended, you know where Cowes Lane is, what I mentioned?
Yeah,
That's in the parish of Holy Cross.
Holy
And
Cross.
Holy Cross, where I live right now, is just down
Yeah.
the way.
And that's where I drew that water fountain.
Yes, you certainly did.
1850.
Road.
Engraved on the fountain was 1857, the year of his birth. Wow.
Well, it made up that, at least Holy Cross have got us up on a school.
Oh, me too. That's why I went into the school, because it was Mike who dropped my name
Kelly.
in when I went.
Mike Kelly.
Yeah,
Incredible.
a beautiful person. We have met some wonderful, beautiful people, Frank. Been our pleasure to. But ultimately, what happened with the drawings is that they got to the publisher, and the publisher decided on a more picturesque series of illustrations, which was from an outstanding illustrator, a French illustrator, but they were what we would regard as tame, whereas James Williams was right on the nail with what Poe was thinking and writing, I think. So they weren't accepted by the publishers, so they didn't make the book.
No.
But it blew so many people away. They were outstanding by this young man's talent that the artwork was eventually purchased by the Edgar Allan Poe Museum in Lynchburg, Virginia. And that's where they are now, in frames on the wall.
Well, here it's, Friends of Philadelphia Free Library, and it says, The Pet Raven of Charles Dickens, a character in his novel Barnaby Rudge. Grip said to have been the inspiration for Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven.
Yeah, bang on. So it's sad that these architects, because when Dickens died, his family just sold everything. His suit,
Yes.
his shirt, and ties, his stuff there, his grip. Yeah.
It's The Raven. I wonder if it's a shame, because we have got a picture, of the Raven that he drew. He actually illustrated for his book.
And
Absolutely amazing.
It's strange
Are you
way.
going to tell them when he came back to Liverpool, he was penniless?
Yeah, because this job, it's like you saying to me, there's a guy in London, is willing to pay you some money to do a book cover, but you have to go down there and spend a bit of time. And me doing it, and then the guy saying, nah, don't want it. So any penny that you had, I had, or whatever he had, is gone, because he's travelled to deliver these absolutely amazing pieces of art. And then they said, nah, not for us. So he travelled home and was ill on the journey and became iller as he arrived in his homeland. We come home and he died. He died penniless, and I think in the workhouse.
He came back penniless. He was an ill man. He was only young anyway, still young man. and he had to go into, as Scrooge said, isn't there any union workhouses in force? And he went into the union workhouse, which is prevalent in a Charles Dickens novel, by the way. And that was Brownlow Hill Workhouse.
Yeah.
He died there.
Yeah.
And he was born in the workhouse. None other than John Kirk.
Yeah. Oliver Twist.
Oliver Twist. I always remember Ian St. John, not Ian St. John, Kenny Dalglish. I was at a function.
Yeah.
And I was with, Jimmy McGovern was there. And I was telling them about John Kirk and Kenny. I said, and it inspired, the birth of John Kirk inspired Dickens to write about the birth of Oliver Twist. And Kenny couldn't get over it. And then right through the evening, he kept shouting over, Frank! I was going, what? Oliver Twist, wasn't he a Scouser? And I went, yeah.
Yeah.
He couldn't get over it. That was the
Mr.
Greek.
And all of that. Brownlow Hill.
Johan says, Poe also stole the woman he had a crush on. He loved her. That kind of humiliation stays in the heart forever. Absolutely. Absolutely, Johan.
I think, as you know, Johan, and as Bella and all of us know, anyone who writes from the heart, it's like a sponge. You soak up what's going on. You feel things differently, and it's almost like having a few layers of skin short. Because I think Poe went through his life like that.
He did go through his life, yeah. Who else do you think went through his life
like that?
Without, I'm not saying, without the recognition he richly deserved at the time.
John Keats.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
And
one of the greatest, I'm sorry, go on.
No, all I was going to say is a similar scenario to Poe in that it's like Poe was introduced to love, maternal, or whether his wife, he married, she was young. He was young, he was only 10 years difference, 11 years difference. But history depends who's writing the history book. History books, because of the likes of Zach Griswold, wrote Poe in a bad light, and America basically turned its back on, door shut.
Yep.
As it did with William Blake.
Yep.
It was only years later academics said, "Oh, hang about. This guy is right. He's good."
And when we talk about not having the recognition at the time, albeit that it was read, by people, people loved them, but not the recognition. I'm not saying globally or anything. I'm just saying not the recognition that the likes of the Brontes had, for example, the likes of Jane Austen had, for example, the likes of Dickens had, for example. I'm not saying that. But I tell you, one person who never had any recognition whatsoever until after his death. Do you know who that was? Wilfred Owen.
Yes.
because his poems were banned.
Yeah.
They were banned.
Yeah. Because it is not fit for public consumption.
No, no, because it was telling the truth
That's the one. That's the thing.
about the horrors of war. It was just telling the truth rather than the propaganda that was coming out in the papers. It was just coming out as we're doing okay, we're doing great, you know.
Yeah.
He
See that?
knew that one, not nobody knew anything about the 1st of July 1916, the first Battle of Ypres, when the whole of the Liverpool Pals battalion was wiped out in the first 2 hours. So you know, recognition with great writers, and as Snapey said before, you know, excuse me, when he said before about Dickens, not Dickens, Shakespeare, you know, at the time,
Yeah.
and you know, he stole a few things. I think Azette said it as well. He stole a few things, Shakespeare, and he stole, and do know that he stole Hamlet, but he wanted to prove a point with Hamlet. He wanted to say about there is something rotten in the state of England rather than in the state of Denmark. You
Yeah.
know, no one can take anything away from the bard himself. Nobody.
No.
Only the Americans. The Americans try to say he never wrote them. He didn't write it. How would he know about? These
Well,
are,
we have the same thing decades later with Mr. Dickens.
I think the Americans will one day come out and say he was an American. Honestly, I think that that's
Well,
stupid that
and
you
you know,
would say something.
irony with the friendship of Dickens and Poe, which sadly didn't last all the way through till Poe sadly died. Poe was only 40, same as our great John Lennon when he passed. But Poe had said to Dickens, and Dickens has agreed, that there will be a market, in England for your work. I think your work is great. There will be a publisher, you know, someone who release it. And Poe said to Dickens, I would be eternally grateful if you could introduce my name to these people. So Dickens did. He went knocking on the door of his people who produced his books and said, look, I've met this great guy with fantastic stories, fables, um, poems. Would you consider publishing them? And they immediately all point blank said, no, he's American. No, not happening. So that was the weirdness that was going on then. You know, 1841 and 42.
Well, this is it. You know, it's just a matter of um, the Americans. Look, the Americans are a funny sort of race, a very funny sort of race. They keep coming out, and only yesterday or today or something like that, we won the war again. You know, I don't know what's going on with these people. We won the war. We won the war, and I want to know what war they won. In all honesty, I want to know. So they're that way inclined that they would come out and say that the likes of English literature, I'm talking about these idiotic people, as Franz Kafka said, you get a group of them, 10,000 of them, and they're a political party, these madmen. John Lennon called them insane, didn't he? John Lennon.
The world is run by insane people for insane reasons.
Exactly, exactly. And they would come out and say that, as I said, and I'm not being flippant when I say this, that they would say that Shakespeare was an American. Dickens was American. Look, he was here. This is the proof, with that poster thing that they put up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Did you just say that anything? Because the English literature, and believe it or not, Russian literature,
yes,
fantastic. French literature,
yes,
fantastic.
yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And American literature, to me, I can take it or leave it. I really can. I could take it or leave it. American literature, unfortunately. You have one, what's his name? Grisham.
John Grisham.
John Grisham. He just writes about murders and crime.
His background is as a lawyer, wasn't he? A defense lawyer. Yeah.
This is it.
That's it. I've never read one of his books. Our Marie, my sister-in-law, loves his stuff. I was more blown away by reading Charles Bukowski.
Yeah, Bronson.
Yeah, rather than reading the American greats of literature, because he's partly American, lived in LA to write about like a kind of like Dickens on 15 bottles of grouse, just going for it. And he's writing about the obscenities of life.
Yeah.
Of course, Blake wrote about and Dickens wrote about. And it's not to buy an audience, he doesn't want to attract friends. He's just saying as it is, which is sometimes a bit sharp reading. But I admire that. I totally get what you're saying about the others. When Dickens was selling books in America, the book industry in America employed people to copy his work.
Yeah, no.
Just change it slightly.
Yeah.
And put it out.
They've always done, even in films, loads of films that you watch, they've been copied from, especially the French. And believe it or not, the South Koreans.
Yeah. Yeah. The Chinese as well. So, I mean, we mentioned it on the phone today, the Magnificent Seven, which of course is based on
Japanese. Yeah, the Seven Samurai. This is what they do. And they put it on the screen and have all these stars and whatever, and everybody loves these stars. Fucking annoys me, to be honest. Good evening, says Ali Danus, from all the way from Romania. Hiya, Ali.
Ali.
Johan, did you hear the American journalist ask Messi, are you going to be fit to play for us in the World Cup? A professional journalist asking that question is testimony to their education. system. Yeah,
We rest our cases.
yes. And we do rest our cases. Are you going to be fit enough to play for our country? Good
We're getting
grief.
banned from travelling anywhere.
Owen Lee, evening Frank, Anthony, and chat. Evening, Owen.
You know, hope you're good.
You know, you get, we mentioned people and the recognition at the time. Imagine Dickens today. Imagine William Blake today, John Keats today. All these wonderful writers who put pen to paper. What people don't understand as well is that the likes of Charles Dickens, not Charles, yeah, Charles Dickens included, but I'm going back further back to the likes of the wonderful Shakespeare, who had a lamp, a desk, and a quill. I always called them the quill writers, including Charles Dickens, by the way. Nothing had changed. A quill, a quill. And that's how he wrote, or that's how they wrote their works.
And you know, and I know, and lots of our beautiful chat family know, the absolute terror sometimes of a blank piece of paper. What are you going to draw? What are you going to write? What are you going to put on it?
What is it? It's like that poem I wrote, Blank Paper.
That's
Because
why
I was just there.
I see so much of me and others in that poem, because that's the fear. That's the fear. And it would have been Dickens and Shakespeare and William Blake's fear. What are you going to write about love? I've got a fuckiest. And
It's
sometimes
just, no, the poem I wrote,
yeah,
Blank Paper, midnight staring at blank paper. That's the very first line. And the very last line. And
I'll read it.
I start to write on the blank paper.
Yeah.
You
And
see, so everything
music.
has to like go into the middle
Yeah,
of your first and your last lines.
yeah,
But you
yeah.
don't realize what you're writing because these are the feelings you have. Any writer, it's like I was feeling down listening to the news, and I don't mean the ITV news or the BBC news or any other news, but the news that I watch. And I said, and it was about oligarchs and how they're making money out of suffering, like wars. And I said, I wrote a thing called The Moon. It's the way I felt. There is no rich or poor or poverty living on the moon. There is no starvation or famines living on the moon. There is no hatred of each other living on the moon. There are no destructive leaders living on the moon. There are no wars over territories living on the moon. There are no nuclear weapons of mass destruction living on the moon. Can I please live on the moon and live in peace very, very soon? That's how I felt
Yeah.
at the time.
That's beautiful. And you're writing in opposition of what's going on.
Yes.
The same way as Blake wrote London, and the same way as Dickens wrote his books.
Exactly.
That's what we're together tonight with our family to discuss, because that's where we think real, emotive, to the point lessons in life comes from. It
Well,
comes
that's
from,
right. You know, it's you've got to think of all these writers that we've been speaking about, including Edgar Allan Poe. They never just sat down and said, "Oh, I think I'll write this." They were experiencing something,
yeah,
and they said, "I've got to put it down." And this
yeah,
is where they got the quill out and started writing.
yeah,
Started writing. You've only got to look at Shakespeare.
yeah,
Shakespeare and what he was living through at the time.
yeah,
He was living through a torrid time that a
yeah,
group of people were being manipulated, exploited, and thieved from. A group of people.
yeah,
And he said, and it was about poverty as well.
yeah.
And no one gave a toss about poverty. And he said,
Still don't.
what a terrible era we live in as idiots govern the blind.
Bang on.
Franz Kafka said it.
Yes. Brilliant.
Voltaire said it. They've all said it. John Lennon said it.
Yeah.
They're all idiots.
Yeah.
They're all insane. They're all
Yeah.
psychopaths.
Well, certainly for definite at William Shakespeare's time of writing, he could have been killed for that.
Yeah.
Oh, you having a popper? You have a pop at me? Right. Guards, round him up. They didn't. They didn't see history then, and they're not seeing history now. Whether you're on the wrong side of it or. But without those words, without that commitment to ink and paper, we would well and truly be the blind being governed by the idiots.
Like today.
We are, but at least if you read and you seek knowledge, because we talked about this often on air and off air. It's like sometimes, and I understand that life is hard enough. You got to go to work, you do your hours, you get the money, you go home to your husband or your wife, and there's the food, there's the money to buy food on a table, and it's as simple as that. We grew up through that, and we're still kind of in that mist. So you don't want to rock that boat. But there are those, me included, that feel that any knowledge we gain is beneficial.
It is beneficial, and it's beneficial to all. It's it's. Ali says. Ali says, "American man," and laughs. Bella, ode the written word. Pages turn, a gentle breeze wails unfold among the trees, of ink on paper, spine on shelf, discovering a hidden self. From ancient lore to future's gleam, a quiet, captivating dream.
Beautiful
She's just
poet. Absolutely beautiful. And right.
fantastic. And Ali Danoush says, I saw an interview in the USA. They asked 100 people what city in the US is the US capital. 40% knew. It's always been proved, Ali, the Americans, unfortunately, as someone said there, what kind of education system do they have? And Johan, Poe wrote about death because that was the norm at the time. Infant mortality and childbirth death and complications were at 40%. He, like Shelley, used to write in the cemetery his mum was buried in.
Yeah, I can go to that. His, his young wife developed what was the curse of the 1800s, really, tuberculosis. And he watched her suffer as he went to work for the pittance to various publishing houses that always forever dumbed him down with money. And the only warmth they had in their one up, one down house, which is still there in New York, uh, was his army trench coat. So that was her blanket. And she died on that bed underneath his army trench coat. And then he had to go back to work. Otherwise, he and his mother in law would have been evicted. Like Keats, that's the reality of hardship.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it's what the writers went through. You know, you've only got to look at Blake and what he went through. William Blake.
And
And you look at, sorry, go on.
what a persona he had though, because we talked about this as well. I think we talked about this today about the you can approach life and say, oh, it's going to rain today, it's gloomy, oh, I've not got this, I've not got that, I've not. Or you can wake up and say, the sun's shining, it's okay, you know, good song on the radio. I think I'll do a painting, or in your case, I think I'll read that book or write that book. You know, so it's positivity against, and William Blake, from my readings about everyone we've talked about, he's and I've got to say as well, John Keats was the same. He was pragmatic. He knew what was coming. But that final couple of weeks of his life, when he wrote those immortal lines to the girl he loved, you know, oh wow, you know, Blake sang right the way through when he said to his wife, I should draw you. After all, you have been an angel in my life. And so he draws a picture of his wife, and then he knows he's dying. So he gets propped up in the bed and starts singing.
Yeah,
He's just singing. And he dies singing.
yeah. Do
And
you know,
a stranger
it's
house upstairs came down. She had to witness the death when the doctor came. And she said, I have witnessed the death of not just a human being, but of an angel. Wow.
it's incredible, isn't it? You know, the way the way some the way some deaths occur, and nothing more so than a man at the age of 24 was John Keats, and his girlfriend, whom he loved and she adored, gets a letter a month after John had passed away and buried. And when he said, there are two luxuries I look forward to on my walks, on my daily walks. Your beauty at the hour of my death. Oh, to have them both. Fancy reading that and finding out that he passed on.
Yeah. He was so in love with her and so aware of what was happening that he could not read or respond to her letters, which would come in constantly. Instead, he would write to her mother to tell her, I love her, I'm thinking just of her. You know. And we're all, in life, we're all weighed down with that enormity of emotion sometimes. But the
I think we're
ability,
all weighed down with guilt, actually.
I think that's part of it, and that's the great thing. There's no handbook on life, is there? You go
No,
to chapter 16, page 2, and say, okay, so I know what to do when that happens. It life just takes us on a journey, but that's a great point from Johan there, and maybe it was the times, but maybe they were more learned than we are because we're taught not to talk or think about death. Oh, don't mention that. Oh, shouldn't be saying things like that. So we don't do it in our lifetime of education, media, non-education, but life, family life. Whereas the Victorians at least had that talk about it. We're all gonna. I think it's Buddhism. There's only two certain things in this universe. We're born and we will pass. Life is what we do in the middle of those two. And that was remarkable. John Keats, wow, 24.
Johan, I hope you kept the imaginary cat in the blank page poem. Shall I read it?
Oh, yes,
Shall I read it?
yes.
For Johan.
For you and for me, and for
And for
anyone who's struggling
blank
to put.
paper. Blank paper. Right, let me just, do you know what? I know it sounds terrible, but I can recite poems, I can recite speeches by Shakespeare, but I don't know any of my own poems.
I think that's an inbuilt thing. We're like that.
Do you know what? Seamus Heaney, when I said, I met him and we had a drink, when he was giving us his lecture, he was reading his poetry from a desk. His book, like he had a book on a desk, standing up a little.
Yeah.
And he was reading this, and you could see him turning over the pages, So I'm not the owner. Well, anyway, blank paper. Almost a witching hour. The ticking clock. Tick, tock. I'm staring down at blank paper as the cat goes prowling about. What's he looking for? Something has made him curious. Is it the silence as the clock ticks? Or is it something more sinister? Still nothing written down. Paper still blank and empty. The cat still curious, still prowling and staring. Midnight clock chiming. The cat flap. The cat flap springs to life. Through the window I see it hunched and ready to pounce. The last time I saw it 5 long months ago, at the witching hour, through darkness disappeared. My blank paper no more. The strange disappearance of my curious prowling cat written down on blank paper. The witching hour, the deadly silence, the darkness, the curiousness, the ticking clock, the blank paper. Will it ever be seen? Perhaps tonight on Halloween.
Love it.
I wrote 2 blank papers actually, you know.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
that's, you know, it's I'll read this one, the other one. And again, blank paper. I wrote 2, you see.
Yeah,
Midnight staring at blank paper, my mind devoid of thoughts, my eyes focused to the floor. The cat, curious, hissing and prowling. Tick tock, the ticking clock, fingers nearing the midnight hour. The cat, still hissing and staring. A noise, the cat flap flips open, gone. Mine wonders about the cat's disappearance into the darkness. What was it hissing at? What was it curious at? The clock's silence, no moving fingers, no sound, no tick tock, no cat. Still blank paper, no inspiration, deadly silence, a deadly blank mind. The silence suddenly broken, tick tock. The witching hour descends. Chimes of midnight greet us all. Cat flap lifts the cat prowling in the hall. Ominous dark shadows following the cat. My blank mind racing, my brow perspiring. Knees violently shaking together. Hands trembling, heart pumping. The inspirational cat is back, and I start to write on the blank paper.
love it. That was the version I first heard.
Yeah,
You, I love it because it ticks every box with me. It that's yeah,
it's one of those things, as I said, when we look at these great writers, you know, everybody on here, all our chatters, they've all written, they've all they've all read,
yeah,
and you've got to take into consideration. It's like writing a letter. It's
yeah,
like writing a letter to a loved one or someone else, you know, like a person that you haven't seen in years, and you go, wow. So you start thinking, well, what shall I put? And that's the way these great writers, but they already had seen what they want to write about because they'd experienced something around them at the time.
yeah, yeah. The greatest bit of advice I got about writing was from one of our most beloved and majestic writers, Liverpool born, which was Alan Bleasdale. And I was only talking in general passing, and he said, "To, if you're going to write, The trick is to write it, rewrite it again, rewrite it again, and rewrite it again. And then you're onto something.
Well, that's why I wrote two blank. And look at what Johan says. Different tones on both of them. Love how it shows the effect emotion plays when writing. Love it. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, beautiful. And quite right, Johan. Me too.
And the lovely Bella. And this
Oh,
is Marcella.
Marcella.
Marcella, actually. Franco and Antonio, thank you for a wonderful night of learning once again. I'm afraid we have to go early because my mama has a bad cold. Fantastica poem, Franco. Thank you, Marcella. And I hope your mum gets better quite soon.
Yes. Yeah.
Anthony, we'll have to close. We'll have to close. I've got to make a phone call to my daughter. And,
That's okay.
you don't mind, do you? I'm doing a football show tomorrow.
I know, yeah, great. And
Do you mind if I give you the ring later on?
Okay, well, yeah, give it a go, Frank. If you don't hear from me, you know that I'm gone. I'm waking up at 6 o'clock, 6, and going to work.
I'll definitely give you the ring. I'll tell you for why in a moment. And New Age Buddhism is snarky. Three certainties in existence: life, death, and taxes. It's true. It's true. Oh, fantastic. Well, I've just got to thank these wonderful people. Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle show. It's a big thank you to them. If you're an NHS worker and elderly, get them in, you get special discounts. And even get them in to give you the price with no obligation. And that's Gap Painting Services, sponsors of the Frank Carlyle podcasts. And Anthony, thank you. And who do we thank most importantly?
Well, we thank our invisible friend constantly, is our Jason, without which we definitely would be out of a job. And most importantly is our beautiful chat family.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for your contributions, which are all absolutely worth their weight in gold, and we appreciate them from the bottom of our hearts.
Yes, most certainly do. And for all you football fans, I'll be doing a podcast tomorrow. On Friday, I'll be doing the current affairs, which I know Johan will be looking at. Definitely got one who'll be looking at the current affairs. And on that wonderful note, thank you so much for keeping Anthony and myself company. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll give you the ring in about 20 minutes.
That's good, Frank.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you later. Ciao, everybody. Ciao, Bella.